All right, friends, we are back for a
Oh
real
no!
quick
Oh no!
coda.
Oh
All right, a couple things. Last night, I watched the series finale of Star Trek Discovery, and then a few seconds ago, I learned that there is a movie trailer called Wolves where Brad Pitt and George Clooney are back together.
no! Boy, are they back together? But we'll
No,
start.
well,
We'll
let's
have to
start there.
start.
Start there real quick. What is this movie about? It looks kind of mob or hitman. I haven't watched it with sound. I just kind of pieced through it real quick.
So, okay, we'll start with the upbeat part, I guess. Basically, wolves. I don't know why they call it wolves and not wolves, but I guess they'll explain it in the movie somehow. It's first of all, it's the first movie from writer director John Watts since he did the Spider-Man trilogy for the
Okay.
MCU. So this is like his first gig out of the clink. And many people may not know, but he had the movie that basically got him Spider-Man, to my knowledge, was this really cool indie called Cop Car, where these two kids steal a cop car from menacing cop Kevin Bacon, and he's chasing them down to try and get it back.
Okay.
It's intense, and Kevin Bacon's superb in it. But anyway, that's partially why I kind of hoped they would cast him as J. Jonah Jameson, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so Wolf is George Clooney and Brad Pitt play fixers. They are assigned to the same job by accident. And they've got to team up and somehow get through one hell of a night in New York involving stolen cocaine, a dead body that turns out not to be as dead as they thought, and a whole bunch of people chasing them for wolves.
Say no more. I'm in. I want to see this.
Just watch the trailer because you've got everything from this really cool shot of them. It looks like they're hiding out at a wedding for some reason. And then there's this cool shot of them on a dance floor, turning and then pulling their guns on each other at the same time. And it's like a little dance, and it's phenomenal.
Okay.
And then the kid that they've got that they thought was dead but isn't dead, that's still the coke, does an unintentional superhero landing after getting hit by a car, or almost getting hit by a car, because you see Clooney coming at him with the car. The kid jumps and like bounces off the roof,
Yeah.
and then lands on his feet. And then you see Brad Pitt just chuckle as he watches the whole thing. This movie looks insane. It will be in theaters September 20th. And another interesting fact to note is that it is not only the first time, well, two different interesting facts. The first time George Clooney and Brad Pitt have been in a movie together since 2008, Burn After Reading. And it is also another Apple original that instead of going to streaming, George and Brad apparently made a deal to go theatrical and give back some of their paycheck.
Oh, cool.
So it went to theaters, and it's being distributed through Sony, who's also handling Fly Me to the Moon later this summer, which was also an Apple original.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we may have talked about that, the fake the moon landing rom-com with Scarlett Johansson and Channing Tatum.
No, we didn't talk about that, but that sounds pretty interesting too.
Watch the trailer on that one because it is I'm curious to see how this concept plays out.
Okay.
Because Fly Me to the Moon is basically the space program in the 60s. Scarlett Johansson is I think she's a marketing person behind the moon landing, and Channing Tatum's an astronaut.
Okay.
And then they're going through this whole thing where it's like, okay, we may have to fake this. How do we fake this if we can't do it? And they, fall in love at some point, I'm sure.
There you go. Mike Reyes from CinemaBlend on the line with me right now as we talk about the world of movies. Kind of a coda to what we did yesterday. To officially wrap up this week, we're going to talk about Star Trek Discovery. I legitimately forgot that last night was going to be the series finale of the show. Okay.
I'm not surprised. I mean, you have such glowing reviews for this show that I thought you would have been keeping tabs on it.
I have watched every episode of this season. I have not watched every episode of last season. I got to this season finale and I didn't care. That was the long and short of it. Like, I was like, I don't care about this. I don't care
folks.
I don't care what happens to these people. There's going to be a fifth season. I'm sure everything will be fine. And here we are. So,
okay, did you miss anything going into season 5 without watching that episode?
I don't
Was there
think
anything
so.
Crucial missing?
I don't think so. Discovery does this thing where they kind of like cruise past old ideas from episodes. Like last season, they went to the galactic barrier, and they had used that term before in I believe Star Trek 5 when they go to go find God at the end.
You mean the final frontier?
Oh no, I get what you're saying.
No, I'm saying the galactic barrier is the final frontier.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, what? How did I mess this up? But I have yet to have much coffee or anything. You know what? There's only one thing to do in a situation like this.
You poor thing. Oh, is that an energy drink?
It's a nice cold Budweiser is what it is.
Is das ein Red Bull?
No, it's actually a Diet Pepsi.
Close enough.
In my line of work, it's amazing I'm not a full-blown alcoholic. But anyways, so they kind of float past these ideas that have happened in other shows and whatnot. And this season was no different. But I'm going to tell you right now, I didn't mind season 5 on a lot of levels. It didn't.
Wow.
I of all the seasons of it, I kind of liked it. I think I liked this season the best, except last night's episode was so stupid.
Damn. So they tripped over the dick in the finale, you're saying?
Okay, so this goes back a little bit, okay?
Okay,
you remember
I've got my helmet on.
All right, there's going to be some spoilers here, so if you haven't watched the episode or the series or what have you, there's going to be spoilers here, and there has to be, okay?
Yeah, the Discovery series finale, Animal Planet.
Yep, exactly. If you go back, do you remember the short treks they did?
Yeah.
So one of the short treks, it starts out on an empty Discovery. The ship is empty. The only thing that's inhabiting the ship is the computer Zora. It's the sphere data that they got in one of the episodes, right?
Yeah.
The ship picks up a lone survivor, an escape pod, and the computer kind of falls in love with him, right?
Right.
And it's the old Discovery. It's the Discovery that we started out with, because when they go to the future, they gave Discovery a retrofit. They refit it and brought it up to 32nd century standards, right? Which makes a lot of sense when it's a 1,000-year-old ship, but whatever.
It was in good condition.
Yeah.
Literally out of the box.
And they, still the turbo lift
It's got a
scene.
spore drive.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so keep that in mind. In that short track, Zora says that she's been waiting there in deep space for 1,000 years, right?
Oh.
So this ship has been waiting there for 1,000 years. So you go, okay, they're in the 22nd century or whatever. So that puts them at the time of where they jump to in one of the seasons to go to the future to finish out the show, to the 32nd century, right?
Yeah.
No, not at all. The season story has an ending, and it's not bad. They the whole season dealt with the episode of Star Trek Next Generation, The Chase, where they're trying to figure out who started life in the galaxy, right?
I mean, that's a perfect place to end everything.
And it was a good episode. They talked about, they called those people the progenitors. She meets one, has a chance to get their technology and passes it up and all this. It's not a bad wrap up. It was a fun storyline to go through. It was a little convoluted, but they got
like
there.
A happier version of Prometheus.
A little bit, yeah, no. And then the big mystery was the progenitors, who they think started everything. They go, no, we found all this stuff. So it's older than them. So it's like, oh, that's kind of cool. That's kind of interesting, right?
So who's God to God?
So anyways, so here we are. We're sitting in the 32nd century. The show ends. Saru and the one Vulcan ambassador, they get married. And, the show ends with this nice little thing where it flashes forward some odd number of years. Michael Burnham's an old lady. She's actually an admiral now. She's married to Booker. And their son shows up, who's now a captain in Starfleet, right?
Yeah.
So they go back, and their final mission, and this is at the very end of the show, Burnham shows up, and there's Discovery. And they have downgraded it back to its original standards, to what it was when it came to the 32nd century. They even took off the registry number because when they started, they added an A to the registry just to make it look like it was a new ship, right?
Yeah.
They downgraded it back and then send it off on this mission to go sit and wait 1,000 years for the short trek to show up.
Why?
Exactly. Now, they did throw in that at the beginning of the season, they called it a red directive, what the mission was, what they're trying to do here, right?
Right. And what exactly is a red directive?
It's a highly classified mission. You know, you kind of throw out the prime directive, one of those type of things.
That's what I thought.
And the guy who's running it, this is one of the other things that came up. Have you seen the stuff with the old man with the glasses? I can't think of his name. It's like Dr. Kovich or something.
I think that's David Cronenberg's character, like the black sunglasses sort of.
Yeah. We find out that he's actually Agent Daniels from Star Trek Enterprise, Agent Daniels.
I have no clue who that is.
Which isn't bad. They show his office, and she starts noticing things on the back of his thing, on his shelves. He's got like an old bottle of Chateau Picard. He's got Geordi's visor. He's got a baseball, stuff like that. She's like, who are you really? And they kind of go through the whole thing. But yeah, going back to this whole thing of, so we're going to downgrade the ship to send it on a mission to the middle of nowhere and wait 1,000 years for a red directive for this guy to show up. And she goes, all we know, it's something for Kraft. That'll be a big deal. And the guy's name and the short track is Kraft, right?
Yeah.
And it doesnst make sense to me.
But I'm assuming that they never explain who Kraft is. It's just, it's something for him.
Yes. Like, I get the idea of leaving a little mystery out there, but I had to go back.
Mystery.
I went back and watched the short track afterwards because it's been a couple years since I saw it. And he's basically a dude that he left his family to go fight in a war, and now he's going back 10 years later, and he had been in a escape pod when she found him, and the computer falls in love with him. It's like, okay, but now you're in the 42nd century. It's like they have good ideas and they don't know exactly what they do with them. And I feel like this whole short trek kind of it up.
Unless it's like, hey, we've got plans for a new expansion coming at some point. Yeah.
I guess. I don't know, but it didn't work for me. I liked it up until that moment. Up until they start downgrading the ship back to 1,000-year downgrade for it.
I don't know what concerns me more, that or the fact that they're bringing Simon Kinberg, who did the last two X-Men movies, or at least I know he was responsible for Dark Phoenix, bringing him in to potentially do Star Trek movies.
Yeah, I didn't get it. Discovery has really great moments and really fucking dumb moments, and I think this was a really dumb moment. And you know what's bad?
Like the Star Trek 4.
Oh, The Voyage Home?
No, the fourth Kelvinverse one that they've been struggling to make for years. Just make that.
You say you don't like Discovery, and Star Trek fans just go nuts. And there are moments I like in it. There are moments I think, oh, that's kind of awesome. Oh, that's interesting. But it always, you know what it always goes back to for me?
What?
It's the whole idea of, if you're going to do something in that universe, it has to make sense in that universe. It's kind of like when we talked about Star Trek Picard. When you do like Geordi LaForge becoming a Commodore for the Fleet Museum and taking care of all these ships makes sense. It's within the realm of possibility for that character.
Well, yeah, because that just fits with who he was. He was always a detail-oriented person. He was in friggin' engineering.
And there are lots of parts of Star Trek Discovery that I like, but there are also a lot of parts that all of a sudden it turns and it's like, that doesn't make sense. It is not one of my favorite. I want to go back and watch the whole thing and give it a fair shake because, like I said, there are moments that are good, but there are just a lot of moments that don't make sense to me. And
yeah, I'm kind of afraid of you going back to watch this show from the beginning because I don't know if I want you to inflict that much psychic damage on yourself.
I feel bad because I feel like I should be defending Star Trek as, you know what? It's one of those things. It's like when you try too hard to be deep and meaningful, you miss the point.
Well, exactly. I mean, that's why subtlety is such a
lost art,
a deft touch when you're, because sometimes you do need to shout the message and have it in all caps, but if you do it the right, you can get away with it if you do it the right way.
Yeah.
If you don't do it the right way, it just comes off as pandering and very much like, I think that's why some people are like complaining, oh, Star Trek's woke. And it's like,
it's always been
have
woke.
You watched Star Trek from the beginning? Do you remember that time in the 80s where they had a movie that not only mirrored the Chernobyl disaster, but also the fall of the Soviet Empire, Union? Yeah. Star Trek 6, the best original crew movie ever.
It is, I believe so, but
it really is. Oh man, thank you. Nothing against Wrath of Khan, but Star Trek 6, it's like the more I watch both of them, it's like Star Trek 2 is still a miracle of a movie because that was supposed to be a TV movie that was made on a smaller budget that was like a real strip down to the bolts, run and gun sort of movie, and it was a smash.
Yeah.
But 6 is what I see. People are starting to come around to 6 more, and I feel like that's just more along the lines of the more you watch the series and grow up or grow older, not grow up, but the more you grow older, it's like you identify with the crew of the Enterprise going on like one last adventure. And then just the political intrigue that's involved, and yet there's still great humor, and there's all this other fun stuff. There's even an Easter egg of Worf's great-grandfather, I think.
He was supposed to be. There was supposed to be more about that.
Yeah. And you have this mix of stuff that makes Star Trek great.
Yeah. Going back to Discovery, it's just they did some stuff right. I'm not going to say that it was a complete waste of 5 seasons, but there were just parts of that I'm like, I can't get past this.
In that vein, what is your favorite Star Trek series finale?
Star Trek series finale?
Yeah, since we're talking about series finales here and saying goodbye to all good things, and
what's funny about this one, I really like the epilogue where they show Burnham and Booker together later in life, and that it's not, they don't always have these happy couples and happy marriages in Star Trek. And then to see that they raised a son that, turned out great and all this, and, they're living the good life. And it's just the part where they're like, yeah, we're going to downgrade Discovery and send it out to the middle of nowhere for 1,000 years. Should be fine. Favorite one. Oh, I really liked All Good Things.
All right, so what's the one that you like the least? Would Discovery be the one you like the least?
It's that, but you take Enterprise to start. For me, okay, favorites, it's either All Good Things or What We Leave Behind from Deep Space Nine. It's one of the two. They're kind of 1A and 1B in my mind, because they did really great things, but they were very different great things. Like All Good Things, you had Picard finally want to become a member of the family, so to speak, with his crew, and that poker scene at the end, and that shot of the Enterprise going off into the sunset. You had great moments with Q in that. And then, What You Leave Behind, you have, Cisco, saving the day, but at a sacrifice, that he's not going to see his wife or the kid, his new kid. The war is over. You have, all these little stories wrapping up with Worf going off to become the ambassador on the Klingon homeworld. You have Odo going back to his people. You have life kind of continuing on the station. And that zoom out of showing how little it is compared to the entire universe at the very end with Jake and Colonel Kira right there. It was just really good. It was just a really strong ending. The Enterprise ending is always going to probably be the worst, because it was a good idea, but it just wasn't executed very well. And it kind of made it trivial, where they deserved, it should have been, the last episode should have been the one before it. Like, we didn't need the Commander Riker shoehorning that story into a Star Trek The Next Generation episode. It didn't need to be done. Plus, you killed Charles Tucker in it, which is just an a**hole move. But he doesn't actually die in the comic or in the books. He was actually like spirited away by Section 31 and becomes a secret agent or some shit like that. I don't know.
See, that's why people shouldn't be ignoring the extended Star Trek canon, because a lot of people talk about it with Star Wars, but Star Trek has just as rich of an extended lore canon, even though I haven't really partaken in it myself. I mean, they had a really fun series of...
They even dealt with one with how the Borg came to be.
Oh.
And that actually do you remember the Enterprise season 4 at all, where the Columbia shows up? The second?
I really didn't watch Enterprise.
Okay, so the start of the Borg are actually the Federation.
Oops.
The Columbia is kind of responsible for it, but that's neither here nor there. This has gone on longer than I thought it would. I think we said 10 minutes. We're well past 20 at this
Star
point.
Trek, dude. Come on.
So, anyways.
But you even had books about like the Dominion War, and it's like, why didn't we get Dominion War movies?
Mike Reyes from CinemaBlend.com. A little bit of a bonus portion of the episode. I'm actually thinking about just making this its own episode.
Why the hell not? I mean, it's Star Trek. Star Trek plays.
Yeah. So, Yeah, that's probably what we'll do. We'll make this a little bonus episode. All right. Mike, we'll let you go there. Get back to your weekend. Have a great day, okay?
You too, sir. And podcast, radio, whatever listeners are listening to this, you're quite welcome for the bonus. We were glad to give it to you. Live long and prosper.